Before I make some comments about the scriptures tonight, it's my obligation, according to canon law, that once a year at least, the pastor needs to give an update on the finances of the parish because they're so important for the life of our parish. It's not something I enjoy doing, but nonetheless, you have every right to know where we stand. You'll find in the parish bulletin today a copy of the statement of our finances for the fiscal year from June 30th, July 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2016. Is that right? 15. All right. See, I'm not doing good already. But anyway, it's a year's worth of what's happened. And overall, I have to say, as I have said many times, your generosity and your contribution to the life of the parish financially has been tremendous. You have risen to the occasion whenever we had a great need. And it seems like we always have a great need, but you keep rising to the occasion. And so many have given tremendous amounts of donations just over and above their offertory collection. And I'm so grateful for that, as I certainly know that God is. But there's a few things to look at. The good news is that this year, our Sunday collection was up $19,500 over the previous year. And that's a good thing. But I'm alerted by the fact that in this current quarter, we're down 10% in our offertory collection, and 10% less since July than we did last year at this time. And so that's a concern. If that continues, we'll be in very big trouble. And so I don't know why it's happening. Maybe it's largely due to everybody being away on summer vacation and don't put their envelope in or catch up later, I'm not sure. But that's the reality. You'll look and see that we are $73,000 in deficit spending. We were $77,000 in deficit spending last year. And that's very serious, because if we do the same thing this coming year, we are going to be in big trouble by June 30th of this year, of 2017. What we have to do is increase our income by 20% in order to get ourselves on a level basis. And that's a pretty big amount. The only time that we had a profit in our income since the parish reopened was in 2013, when we had a profit because we had received a donation of almost $190,000 that year. And so that's where we had a profit. Yet on the other hand, certainly everybody has given so that we've been able to pay our bills and able to keep going. When you look at this report, you'll see that just the utilities, insurance, and property taxes were $139,876.09. That's a whole lot. If the average Sunday collection is $6,000, it would take us almost half a year of Sunday collections to pay those few bills. And so we have to just be aware of it. The diocesan assessment went up because the school, if you have a school, the assessment for each parish is 12%. If without a school, it goes up to 17%. So our assessment for the year was $50,856, as opposed to $36,700 the year before. That's because we do not have a school. And they do that for parishes with school because they have the extra expense of Catholic education. And of course, we still owe $1 million to the diocese, and that's not going to go away. I have been paying, our current monthly assessment is $5,200. I've been paying that every month, and I've been adding $1,000 to it just to show goodwill to the bishop that we haven't forgotten about that debt that we owe. But I think I'm going to stop paying that $1,000 for now, because we really need it right now for operating expenses. So I don't want to send any red flares up to the bishop, but If he calls me downtown, I'll explain it to him. So, but that is an outstanding thing, and it worries me. But so many things are happening. Our buildings are old, and our buildings are in need of a lot of repair. Everybody's commenting on how beautiful the front of the church looks right now because of the cleaning up of the stone, and it really does. We need to do the whole building eventually. But this week, the backside here, water's been coming in on the sacristy ceiling all week with the rain because the tuck pointing on the back of the sacristy is so terrible. So I'm hoping we can get at that real soon. I think I mentioned to you about the elevator in the community center, that it completely is useless. It's given us 50 or 60 years of service. Otis Elevator came in and they inspected it and said that it was not able to be repaired. Then I got a letter from the City of Cleveland Utilities Department or something. Big notice, Father, you're going to be taken into court unless you repair that elevator. And, you know, in so many words. So I checked it out, and the man I called was real nice, but they said if we didn't fix it, they were going to shut down the building. But when I explained to them that we don't need the elevator right now because nothing's taking place downstairs or upstairs, and that we do need the floor, the ground level floor for meetings and so forth. And so they said we have to pay Otis Elevator to come out, and they have to formally shut it down because they have to drain the oil and do some other things that only they know how to do. So they'll be coming out this week, hopefully, to do that. And then they'll put something on it that nobody can possibly use it. So it'll be safe. And as I mentioned to you, a new one would be $50,000. And we certainly don't have money to pay for that now. But you see, every time we go to do something, another thing happens. And I can get real discouraged about it sometimes, wondering how are we going to do this? The task seems so monumental. But I have to do what I preached you should do, and that is to put it in God's hands and trust Him. I think that's why we're here, and we really have to trust the Lord that He'll give us the means to do what we need to do. The gospel today, the story of the publican and the Pharisee, is one we are all aware of. The Pharisee comes in and what he's doing is really telling God, look how good I am. I pay tithes, I help the poor, I follow the law, I do all these things. Actually, he'd be a good neighbor, wouldn't he? He's a pretty upstanding person. And he's telling God, I do all these things. What he's forgetting is that he needs to realize that he should be dependent upon God for everything that he has and does. The tax collector, on the other hand, knows he's sinful. And he kneels down in humility, saying, Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner. I've sinned. He acknowledges it. He's dependent upon God. I read this week about an author who coined the phrase, the gift of inadequacy. I don't think I've ever looked at inadequacy as a gift. I felt inadequate a lot of times in my life. I feel inadequate a lot of times here just with this task of maintaining these buildings. But what he's saying is that if we recognize that we are inadequate, we're dependent upon God for all things. And God fills up what is lacking. They're saying is that if you want to get into heaven, the bar, you have to go, it's very low, and you have to go under it. In other words, you have to get down on your knees in order to go under the bar that leads into heaven. And I think that's a good image, that we have to kneel before God, humbly knowing our inadequacy and knowing that we can depend upon a loving and caring God for all things. And if we look at it from that standpoint, certainly that's pleasing in the eyes of God. And it should give us hope, too. It should give us a great deal of hope. And so the lesson today is that we do need to depend upon God for all things. We acknowledge that we are all sinners. We all have inadequacies. But on the other hand, look what God can do if we just put our lives into His hands. And He does great things through us. So the scriptures give me hope. I hope they do to you too. I didn't think it would make sense to go over every figure on this page. If you have any questions about it at all, don't hesitate to ask me, and be glad to answer them, or if anybody wants to meet with me, we can talk about it. But thank you again for your generosity, for all your support of the parish, and please do what you can. I know what I'm done already is I've assessed what I'm giving, and I know that I need to raise it. I got a raise this year because I start collecting Social Security last June when I turned 70. So I owe some of that to God, and I paid him a little bit, but I got to get ready and pay him the rest before Christmas. So I think for all of us, you know, we just need to realize that God calls us to show our honor and respect for him by giving of our time, our talent, and our treasure. And that's the least we can do for God in thanksgiving and praise for what he has done for us. And so to everybody who gives of their time and talent in the parish, and there's so many, I thank you. For all those who give of their time, teaching, taking communion to the sick, singing in the choir, serving Mass, distributing the Eucharist, and on and on. Give praise to God for you. And for all who generously give of their treasure, so that we can sustain our buildings and they can truly be a monument of our faith and a place where we can all grow in the likeness of Christ. So thank you again. Let's just do our best. Inadequate as we are, we shall make it because God is with us. And I wanted to mention too, everyone's praising the cement work out here that got done between the church and the rectory, and that was donated by one person. You know, when he heard about what we were doing, one person donated all the money to pay for that. So I just wanted you to know that, and I'm very grateful.